share my, oh, hold on, cancel. Oops, no, I don't want to leave the meeting. Cancel that. Cancel that. How do I stop that? Stop, cancel, close that. Photo, ready? We've got, what have we got today? Okay, everybody say brochures. Awesome. Okay, here we go. These are good memories to have. You know, we'll look back on this time and go, remember when back in 2020, you know, when we had coronavirus and we did that thing. So we did that collaterals thing. So good memories to have. All right, where are we? Screen share, ready to rock. Desktop share, please, yes. So internets are all under a lot of pressure at the moment. If I lose you or if anything goes wrong, please log back in. I will jump over to my phone. I've got you know, downloads seem to have been okay and uploads, but I haven't had any trouble. But if anything goes wrong, please log back in. I've got backups of backups. Radio, here we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen first of all? Just give me a heads up, a thumbs up, I mean, yep, awesome. Okay, excellent. So cut through collaterals and yay, we have a new logo finally. So after all that, nothing like creating things on the fly. Luckily everybody's pretty patient at the moment. So today is all about convert and how to create a brochure that closes the sale. So I don't know about you, but back when so starting a lot of this and going out and seeing clients is one of the things, there's a few issues that I noticed when I'm out working with people with this stuff, and the challenges that I went through was, one was, first of all, was that trying to, you know, you go to meetings and you would, I didn't know when to send brochures. Did I put a brochure on the website or do I not? And what do I give people at what certain sequence in time? You know, do I give people, like if people inquired, do I, you know, they'd say, how much do you charge for delivering an X event? And you go, oh, well, I kind of feel like I need to talk to them first, but they don't want to talk to me. So I've got to send a brochure. So do I send the brochure? Do I not? But I don't, you know, there's all these questions that come with pricing and brochures. And I think the sequence of that activity, probably for you, Deanna, yours a massive, big project. But brochure are probably at a little bit higher level for you. It is probably a bit different than how an expert will do it with how we price, but still valuable, I think, in terms of you can still do something valuable here for your practice, for your business as well. The other thing that I noticed came up, so for me, I didn't know where a brochure sat in the sequence of things. I also didn't understand why would you even do a brochure? I do proposals. So I was like, you know, so if I'm doing all these things and, you know, having meetings, and then I go home and I go, so, okay, now that I've defined the need, I go home and I do the proposal, and the proposal takes me a day to sort out. And then I've got to send it to them, and then they come back, and then, you know, they've talked about it in a room when I'm not there. And so I don't get to explain anything or talk through anything. And so I was really confused with what on earth to do with a proposal and a brochure, and how to get better conversion rates, how to sell better, how to improve my productivity and my time, because I just felt like I spent most of my time working till ridiculous o'clock doing proposals. You know, I go to meetings all day and then come home and go, oh man, it's going to take me a week to do all these proposals. So I thought it's just got to be some kind of better way. And so what I'm going to work through today is I'm going to work with you through things I've learned from a number of people, and I've kind of brought them all together and into the system and the process that I teach the clients that I coach and mentor. So I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. These are not things that I made up myself, but there are definitely some tweaks and things in here that I've added that I've found increases the speed, productivity, and effectiveness of being able to convert and close sales. So the people I'm standing on the shoulders of today are a lady called Rachel Burke. Rachel is in Sydney. So she is she's based in Sydney. She is a sales expert. She has a business called Sales Space. And so I did all her LinkedIn stuff for her, because she said, I'm not a marketer, I'm a salesperson. And so I coached her for a while around marketing and increasing her leads. And then I went and did her course on selling. And one of the things that I was really confused with it all. And when I went to her, I said, what feedback do you have for me? Because this is what I do. And I went with my LinkedIn program. So the LinkedIn program on average would sell for about 30 to 40,000, just depending on what was on. And her advice, the first thing she said to me, you are really hard to buy from. And I was like, oh, it was devastating. It was like a knife to my heart. Like, I was like, oh, you're kidding. I was like, really? I think I'm a nice person. I talk to people. I do this. She's like, it's not that. She said, you're lovely. You're easy to talk to, all that. That's great. But you don't have documents that talk for you when you're not in the room. You don't have a really good brochure, and you don't have something that really helps your customer to buy from you. So it was brutal feedback, but super helpful. And so what I'm going to go through today is to help you to pull together something like this, and it varies. So this is just a sample. So depending on whether you're doing business to business or business to consumer, it doesn't really matter. This has probably got more of an angle on business to business. But the principles are still the same. And I've also put 2 samples in the Facebook group. I've put one that's a business to business sample, and I've put one that's a business to consumer sample. They're both my own samples. They've definitely sold. They definitely work. So I can hand on heart. I've looked at some others' brochures, and also not everybody's keen to share their brochures and, you know, what's included in programs. Some people sort of like to keep that stuff to themselves. But so the 2 brochures are not me going, I'm such a rock star, I'm so good, look at my brochures, which I try to shine the light on other people if I can. But it's what I can say hand on heart is the 2 brochures that I've put in are more to say I know they work. So at least I know if I am using other people's brochures or sharing things, I'm always not 100% sure that they've definitely worked, but these 2 I can certainly say they have worked. So I hope that that's taken in the vein as not me going, look at my brochure, how awesome are they? So now again, I just want to put it in the context of this is a sales process, not a lead gen process, but it is, I still think, important. We've done the 12 key skills. I won't go through each of them again because everybody's up to speed now. Even if you're listening to the recording, you have done the previous modules by now and you've done all this. The thing with what it is important though is to, I think, understand where your brochure sits in the context of marketing, because when you're trying to build your brand and to be able to grow your practice or your business, is you've got branding, you've got marketing, and you've got selling. And if you're not selling, if you're not able to close sales, it's more often than not because the marketing or the positioning is not always working as well as you'd like. So most people will come and they'll say, I've got a sales problem. And when I go through it, I go, you actually don't have a sales problem, you've got a marketing problem. I used to have a lot of people come to my social media for experts course, and I'd say, why are you here? And they go, I don't know what to put up in my social media content. And I'd go, well, who are you? What's your brand? What's identity? And they go, yeah, I don't know. So we go, well, you've got a branding problem, not a marketing problem. So, a big part of this is more often than not is these brochures don't work in isolation. They work because you're doing the work in the 12 key skills. So you've got a database built, you're doing your social media and your content. You've got a LinkedIn profile that connects. So it's another touch point. So what we want is your brochure. It makes, I'm going to ask a quick question just to see if you've got, check on your recall. Can you remember, just comment in the section, how many pieces of content do people need to see before they buy from you? Oh, we got one out of the blocks quick. They didn't even muck around. They've probably heard me say it so many times. Just said, yeah, such an ecosystem and it works together. That's it. Yep, here we go. Kelly was straight out of the block. Then Gary, 10, that's it. And Stacey's got 12. Yeah, the research is starting to push us towards 12. So at least 10. So what we want is we need to, the goal, what will help you to close sales is if you're doing these 12 key skills, we know the people in your database are the people most likely to buy from you. But the idea is that hopefully this brochure is touch point number 10, as opposed to number 1. If it's number 1 touch point, then it's more than likely that it's going to take a long time to get over the line, and it's because it doesn't position you, it's not helping you to be able to really, clients to really get the context and the value of what you bring. So with this brochure this is why we obsess about tribe, and this is why we obsess about the 12 skills, because when it comes to brochure and to a sales meeting, is you are far more likely to close that meeting if you've done the work. So the first time, and you can imagine, it's a bit like being on a date. You know, if you go on a date and it's like, you know, you go on a first date and then somebody asks you to marry them and you're like, I don't know, I'm not even ready for a relationship. That's a lot of commitment. And I've only just met you, really. But if they've been able to date us, they've gotten to know us for some time, they've got a sense of, do I like you? Do I trust you? And maybe I've bought something small from you in the past. Maybe I'm more likely to buy something that's a little bit higher priced in future. So I worked with a client last year. They bought, you know, a couple of smaller programs, and, you know, being easy to buy, buying smaller things, and in the end they've gone ahead and they bought a $120,000 program last year. So that's been a big project over the last 6 months, 9 months. So we want to make sure we know and it was as a result of a relationship, and it was because I'd done all the 12 skills. And even though they were a new client, I knew someone, the person in there knew me, but they'd bought a couple of small things in the past, but because these 12 skills were all working and the tribe building was working, they had no hesitation in paying something like that. And so again, just a reminder that the whole point of the lead generation activities we've done is to get to tribes. And we know that when people want to buy from us, is that more often than not, they're going to be in these two groups, the friends and the fans. You may get some people who are followers, and that will more so come along as if particularly if you're unique in the market, or you solve a specific problem that no one else is solving. And that's when they might come to you. And they go, oh my God, where have you been all my life? I need to buy your thing. And that's always lovely, but it's not always necessarily the goal. Is that they've been lost usually. They haven't found a tribe and haven't found a community, or for someone, or they haven't found a leader. But our focus is more often than not these people. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. Even if you get an inquiry through your website, you will still do this exact same process. But your close rate on these is much higher if you've built your tribe and you're doing your 12 key skills. So I'm just going to stop. I know I've been doing a bit of talking there. I'm just going to check in to see if anybody has any questions, thoughts, insights on what's working, what's been working for you, or where are you at with your brochures currently? Like, what are you finding that is happening for you? Is it that, do you find that are you not sure what to do with it, or do you feel like is it that you know, you've been doing them but you haven't really got a structure or a plan, or do you feel, or are you sitting down and is it taking you a day to pull together a proposal? So where are you at? I'd be really keen to check in. Feel free to unmute yourself if you're happy to share.
Hey, Jane. For me, I have been firmly in the proposal camp.
Okay.
Just thinking that, you know, okay, every client, they want something that's for them, but if you build a proposal and it addresses all of, I mean, because it's the same, they ask the same questions, they have the same issues.
Yes.
You know, I feel like a bit of an idiot that I didn't recognise it 10 years ago. But so for me, yeah, a lot of my time has been going into investing in developing proposals. And so, yeah, I've already started work on probably about 4 brochures at the same time. But I'm hoping that this will help to just kind of finish each of those off, and that will make the world of difference to have something that is just ready to offer that addresses their need, having done, as you say, having done all the other pieces on the way.
Yeah, if you've done all the other things, these will start to, you know, and you start to notice you're streamlining your work. So because you've
Absolutely.
already done all that thinking, is we go, great, I'm going to use that again, and I'm going to use that again. And so, you know, it starts to ease off, and it gets easier once that front end work's done. So,
Yeah,
so
I'm
yeah,
looking forward to it.
definitely been in the proposals camp. And, you know, there's even, you kind of get to a point even with this stuff. So I don't do proposals generally for under 30 or 40 grand. So I will just generally do an email with here's the things, here's what's involved, unless they really need to. That may change a little bit at the moment. So I might do a bit more maybe, but yeah, generally, you know, I've worked with some that don't do a proposal for anything under 100,000 or 150. So we have these ready to go, and we have decisions being made in the meeting, not, okay, well, we'll take it away and, you know, have a think. And these things, provided you've got your positioning, things can usually happen much quicker. Great, excellent. So anyone else happy to share where you've been out with proposals or brochures, or, you know, is going, oh yeah, I don't know, I've sort of thrown something together for people, but it's definitely not had any structure. So if anyone's happy to share.
All right, I'll do a fess up.
Yeah, fire away, yeah.
Probably
about,
about,
happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas.
Probably about 2 years ago, I had a brochure made up, and I've got it open and I'm looking at it, and I've never sent it or used it ever, because a marketer made it up for us and said, you need this, and kind of gave it to us. And then I just looked at it and I just went, I don't know what to do with it. So anyway, it's still sitting there looking at me, and I'm just like, oh, I feel really embarrassed now. I'm like, oh God, I've got a brochure. I've never sent it, not once, not once has it ever gone anywhere. And I've just looked at it like this, another thing that I've paid to have done, and
yeah,
never used it. So, but I agree 100%. We just live in proposal world. And I feel like as our business has evolved, our proposals have gotten more and more unique. Like as a consultant, I suppose, we're not bound to we have a generalist set of services, but really our job is to go in and solve problems and create options, analysis, and encourage decision making. So our proposals can get very tiresome, in that every time we propose to someone, it's unique to their problem, and they're very time consuming.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah, and your projects are, and I totally take that on, Diana, in that you've got these massive big projects, and they do, you know, they're probably a little bit like different, say, to an advisory space. But let's say, for example, this would kind of be perhaps in the space that it might be some advisory work. Perhaps it might not necessarily be a massive project, but you might say, you know what, we have this part of our business where for $10, $20, $50,000 we do this bit of work, and here's how it works. Do you have anything like that in your practice or business that you do?
Yeah, I have in the last 12 months put a lot of effort into the proposals. So it's actually split into like a part A and a part B. The part A is like the standard core, we are consultants, advisors message.
Yes.
And then the part B, to try and cut it back, is the bit that's unique to your project or your problem or your solution. So,
and you charge for the part A,
yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, great.
But we just needed to cut down the time, because some of the proposals were taking days to do one proposal. And then if we got 20 proposals in a week, our whole business would just stop for a week. It would come to a grinding halt, because we're trying to get proposals out, because no proposals, right? No work. So then you get caught in this loop of,
you're not in delivery, and then you're not selling, and it's a mess. Okay, great. Well, hopefully this will, and if we have to do some more tweaks for you, Gianna, is totally fine. I'm happy to do that. So, and feel free to pull me up if you've got a specific question that might relate to your business, which is still consulting advisory, but might just be a little bit of a tweak as we go, but that's okay. So, all right, so let's get into it. So again, just to go back and recap in the comparison of a white paper versus a brochure. And you might remember back the other day when we talked about white papers, is white papers are far more about why this matters. and we talked about, you know, we had your value model and you had all those things. So it's more about positioning your message and positioning why they should work with you, why they should be paying attention, why they should be worried about this, and why they need to do something about it. Whereas a brochure is more how. So how is far more about here's how the whole thing works. It's a solution, and it's more about, so if you want to work with us, here's how we work. So, because by the time you've got to a brochure is essentially a proposal, but it's a proposal that's already almost kind of pre-done. And so what you want to do when you go to your meetings with your clients is that you want to be walking out with nothing to do. That's the goal. If you can walk out with nothing to do, you are in the perfect position to be able to get onto that next sales meeting. And you can run from sales meeting to sales meeting all you like, because this work has been done. Diana's going, okay, that would be good. That would save some days of work. And because, you know, if you can get going in prepared and the decisions are made while you're there, you can literally walk out and go to the next meeting. Or equally, you're on Memo Mailer, which is what I do, is come out and I'm on Memo Mailer with Ria saying, can you please go in and update that proposal for that organisation and recalculate based on 10 people? Because I thought I calculated on 15 and it's 10, or, you know, and resend the brochure for me. And I'm on my way to the next meeting and she's got it sent. So is that everything speeds up, and when you've got speed, as Stephen Covey would said, when you've got trust, you've got speed, but it's also the other way. If you get speed, you get trust. So people will be able to get that reliability. The white paper is a door opener and the brochure is a door closer. So this is a key thing, I think, just with you talking about, Gianna, with the brochure that you had made, was that, you know, feeling like you were saying, I haven't sent it out to people. So, and that's probably why, because you're not seeing where it fits in your practice. So the white paper, because it maybe with a brochure, it's like, oh, here's us, here's buy our thing. And so the relevance of a brochure is more, if somebody wants to know more about you, it might be I find a lot of people when they do brochures, or so we're going to talk about them in the context of, imagine this is a proposal that's pre-done. Most of it, 99.9% of it is done. You could close your meeting with it. Whereas if you had the white paper, Diana, back instead of perhaps the brochure, it would feel more natural to send that out to all your clients, because you're like, you've got to get across this. This is why you need to, you know, why project managers need to know X, Y, Z in this COVID crisis or whatever. So it sounds like even your own instincts have felt like the brochure that you've got currently, it hasn't felt relevant and it hasn't felt right to perhaps work out where it even has fitted. Would that be right? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it just, every time I open it, like even when I look at it now, it almost just repulses me, because it's not right. I know that it's wrong.
Yeah.
So
it feels salesy, feels icky.
Yeah, 100%. So
yeah.
I definitely feel the white paper was like a,
sorry, lost you a little bit there. Feel like the white paper.
Yeah, the white paper was like a revelation for me, because that feels like that's where we belong. Like that's what our customer
document
gets.
Yeah, excellent. Good work. That's exactly what you needed, because that's opening the door. Putting a brochure in front of someone when you go, hey, this is us, buy our thing, like, oh, how annoying. Delete, unsubscribe. Whereas, and the white paper is about positioning. So it's about, you need to be paying attention to this. It's about your thought leadership, and you're leading them in showing them the way. Whereas so that's about positioning, and the brochure is, because by that stage they've gone, we need help. Can you please tell us how much does it cost? How does it work? That's kind of the conversation that you're in at the moment. So we've got to make sure that we've got the right document for the right time. So let's have a look, because timing is certainly everything. So I'm going to go through one, and I'm going to ask you to tell me, what is it that you notice about this brochure? Tell me what you observe. Won't let me escape. All right, I'm just going to stop screen share for a sec so I can see if I can move this around for a sec, and so I can end show, please. Yes, thank you. And now I need, oops, not that. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, here we go. So this one is a, so I'm going to do we've got some people who are B2B and some are B2C, which is totally fine. So I'm going to do a B2B one first, and then I'll do a B2C one. So B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer. Where's my Zoom? Right, here we go. Okay, let's rock. Okay, here we go. So this is, let's move some things around here so that I can put everyone can see. Right, that's a bit better. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Thumbs up if you can see Connect, LinkedIn for lead gen. Thank you, terrific. All right, so this is a brochure for a program called Connect that I used to sell. I still sell it if someone wants it, but there's a lot of competitors in the market anymore and I left them to it. But so I don't do it as much, it's not my favorite work to do, but it definitely was the program that lifted my practice pretty quickly. And what this was the big missing bit was the brochure that I just was all wrong on. So on the front cover, we've got, and you don't have to have yourself on the cover, by the way, but anyway, I'll just walk through. What I want you to do is jot down your observations as we go. I'm not going to give you insights just yet. I'm just going to point out as we go along and I'll love you to jot down what do you notice. So we have a front cover and it tells us about the program, LinkedIn for lead generation, less than 7 minutes per day. Then we have the next page is, you can even see all my old logos and things. So LinkedIn for lead generation program for organizations. Did you know that 90% of a decision is made before somebody contacts you? 10 pieces of content are consumed. Do you want your team to sell using LinkedIn, but they don't know how? Do you want more lead generation? Do you want to reduce the sales cycle? Do you want to close faster? Are you afraid that your team members will leave if their LinkedIn profiles are written for them? So LinkedIn and the need to manage your online personal brand are creating lots of questions in the workplace. It's easy to lose time online, so it's hard to know where to focus your energy for the best return. Throughout this program, we provide solutions that involve educating you about LinkedIn and how to manage your professional presence in the digital space. You can see we have a value model here. So I'm taking the person from no account to a ninja. If they have a profile below the line, they're going to be repelling opportunities. And if they have a profile that looks like this, that's above the line, they're going to be attracting opportunities. And their currency is how many leads do you get? And I'm looking for lead optimization. So I'm looking for how many leads do I, like, have you got a profile that I can't put a number on the amount of leads they'll get every day, but what I can do is put a number on, have they 100% done everything that they could have to achieve the optimal amount of leads possible. So I've got a value model in there. Then I've talked about more specifically some more problems. I've got, you need some of the problems I find, people don't know what to say, profiles are inconsistent, people don't have habits and routines in place. Then I've said who the program is ideal for. So B2B sales managers, business development teams, marketing and comms people. And then I've got, here's how the program can help you. So LinkedIn can help you and your team. So here's the outcomes. So LinkedIn is a professional development tool, strengthen relationships, ensure the team have a consistent external message and for stakeholders, complement face-to-face, complement face-to-face, gain positioning as an expert in your industry and showcase your knowledge to become a trusted advisor. Now, it has got an extra model in here, and it was just because I had Some I had were HR that were the buyers, and sometimes it was an individual, a sales manager who wanted it for himself. So I actually had to put I had to put two kind of what we would call value models. I had to put this model in here to show the overall strategy for the organization, whereas this value model here is more for the individual. What I noticed when I was selling this program was that most people, when I was selling with HR managers, they actually thought through the lens of their own profile, that you created a bias because they already had a profile. They actually thought through the program. I was noticing they couldn't get their head around organizational level until I talked individual level. So that's why I had to put these two different models, and then I could talk, okay, at a corporate level, here's what we've got to do. So then I've got a bit of an explanation around each of these levels in the model. So based on the amount of, if you want to increase your leads, we've got to increase the capability. So we have to establish, engage, educate, and empower people. And there's a little bit of an explanation in there. And then I've also explained each of the pieces there on each step in the model. Then there's this page, which is a flowchart of the process. So this shows how the program works. So at the beginning, we do a project brief. Then we run, and I measure where everybody's at so I can identify the gaps. Then we run a workshop. People have got workbooks, they've got online access. And then in a week's time, so we have the profiles all written. I bring writers with me, and copywriters. We write all the profiles. Within 2 weeks, the profiles and articles are all reviewed. So we do some articles if people need them as well. I do a weekly progress report for the buyer. So the profiles are all approved and uploaded. We have to keep them on track. So, because otherwise HR or marketing don't know where it's at. So I give them a weekly progress report to let them know which ones are done, which ones aren't. We go into a series of webinars and coaching sessions. Espresso shots are like daily motivational messages to help people keep motivated with their LinkedIn over that time. And we get the final results. Any recommendations that come out of that, specific issues or challenges that need to be addressed. Then I usually coach the content manager or whoever is looking after LinkedIn profiles, and my job is to build the capability of usually the social media manager or whoever it might be. So then I just become a support person for them, and they can outsource any work to us if they need it, and then any required follow-up or support. So it's a flow chart to explain, here's how this whole thing works. And that process or that flow chart is the ideal program that I wanted to sell. And it's 90% of the time, this is the program I would sell. The next page has got some inclusions. So here are all the things that are included so we've got profiles written by professional writers. It's all search engine optimized. We upload the profile for each person. It saves time and it just makes sure they're all consistent. We do an interview with each person. There's a follow-up coaching session for each person. We do a series of webinars, and there's an explanation on each of these things. And everyone gets copies of books, what the marketing team receive. Then on the next pages, we have some pricing options. So the pricing options is, I've done this for 15 people, and so that's just based on what I based the numbers on, what I thought was a good size to run. We have 3 different pricing options, a silver, gold, and what I call a platinum, or a 90-day really immersive experience. And the list of all the things that are included. So these are the same list that's here, but formatted so that I only had to put one on each line. So it's got a diagnostic, and analysis. So I pulled together a report for the client. We've got a 1-day workshop, full color workbooks, a copy of Connect for everyone, access to the online Connect program, an invitation to a private LinkedIn group. Profiles are written for 15 people, one-on-one group mentoring sessions, webinars, thought leadership posts. So for writing content, 30-minute phone mentoring for people if they needed it, weekly progress reporting, and the final diagnostic and assessment. So the pricing options here were, there's around 13,000. So all that was valued at 18,875. If they went ahead with that, it was 13,000. It was all valued at 26,205. So it was sold at 20,000. And this one valued at 46. I sold it for 40. Then we have testimonials. So these are all the people that I've done profiles for. They've all commented to say how, like the increase in sales. Rachel Burke, when I worked with her and did all hers, her sales increased 66% that quarter. This person had an increase in actions taken, new connections. They felt more confident with what to do. Some comments here from Mel Hurd. Tracy Ezard did a lot of work with her and her team. And then we went to frequently asked questions. So frequently asked questions, some of the comments or questions that were held people back were things like, how long does it take? Who owns the profiles? So when we write profiles, particularly if it's for organisational work, is that one of the concerns was, if we're doing all this, who owns the profile in the end? How do you get people to agree to have content about the business on their page? So this came up quite a lot. Can the team write their own profile? And then I've got responses to each of these things and my advice and why we do things a certain way. So for example, can the team write their own profile? Our experience is that it's very challenging to get individuals to write their own profiles. The search engine optimization, keyword checks and capture analysis, which forms the basis of writing a profile, is very difficult. Our belief and experience is that your business and team members are better to focus on their core business activities. Our recommendation is that we write the profile for them. We could show them, but it's like teaching somebody how to build their own website. It's easier to get an expert to do it. We work collaboratively with them, so they get to choose what is on their profile, but we recommend we write it for them. How will I know it's working? Then how many sales can we expect? There's a specific model we use to show you to get a return on the investment. So explain some of that. How do you prove a return on investment? So I've got some information there. What if a team member leaves? So they're like, well, what happens to the profile then? So I put in place what we're going to talk about with the social media manager. And then the last one here is, so second last, then I've got my profile. So I've got a little bit about me, contact details, certifications, my background, books I've written, and then the next steps. So decide from here which program you want. Let me know the dates you have in mind. Confirmation is certain terms and conditions, deposit for 50% to hold the dates, and the program runs, and the final invoice is sent and the first workshop is delivered. If you have any questions, there's all my details. Okay, let's go. So I'm just going to check in. We've had some comments coming through to find out what observations you made throughout the brochure. If you're the customer going through this in the meeting with me, what are you noticing? Let's have a look. We've got, what do we got? Sales call, and then I send them to show us. What have we got? Costco, online brochure. Kelly Glover's got thousands of hours saved. Absolutely. Yep, Kelly Glover, that's right. The value model, the journey of where I am now and where you want to be and where you're taking the client. That's right. Kelly's got, Macman's here to look at the laptop. Excellent, good work. Kelly Tomney has said, makes it really easy. You're leading the buyer. You've got to be the leader. You've got to lead the conversation. Absolutely. Jessica's got data, statistics, pain points, desires, solutions, models, addressing problems. Well done, Jessica. Great pickups. Gary's got costing to each of them. Do they ever ask the basis for that? No. So then that's how I charge. So you can take it or leave it. So, yep. So I've never had to justify my pricing. So, but the beauty of that having 3 different price points is they're empowered. They get to choose. So it's not me saying you must have However, based on the problems that they've got, I can recommend which one would be the solution for them. So I can say, well, and if they don't have that budget, then we go, okay, well, that's okay. Well, we just do the silver program. That's okay. Why don't we start there? Do you show a dollar-based return on investment to them? Yep, that's this. So this is the amount of leads that they get. So 100% capacity out of leads. So if I say, okay, well, all right, how many people are you reaching out to each day? And then I also ask them, what's the value of at the average sale? So then they go, okay, well, our average sale is 20 grand. And I go, okay, your average sale is 20 grand. So, and by the end of this program, so in the program itself, I've got the formula that we do what's called predictive selling. And so based on whatever their budget is that I can work out the specific activities that they need to take to get that. So if they say, okay, well, we've got a specific, and so I say, how much is your goal? And they might say, so I'd say, okay, average sale is 20 grand and we want to do 200,000. So I go, okay, so you need to get 10 sales closed. And then I ask them, so what's your close rate at the moment? And they might say 50%. So I go, great. Okay, so you got to talk to 20 people. So then on top of that, then if we said, let's say you've got a 10% chance of people wanting to have a meeting with you. So let's multiply that by 10. So, so then I work the numbers. So I do more of a work of the numbers. It's a great question, Gary. So I work the numbers when I know, so it's one of the questions I have in the sales meeting is what's your goal? What's your sales target by the end of this quarter or this month or this year? And then we work backwards. And then that's how I do it. So I go, okay, so if you've got 20 people doing that, so the program is 40,000 and you want a return of $1 million. So can I do that? And I'll go, yes, we can do that. If they follow the process, if they do as they're told, if they just do it, then yeah. So then I say, how likely do you think they're going to do it? And then we return from there. Great question, Gary. Stacey's got observations are showing authority and providing the next steps. Terrific, great. Yeah, is being the leader, because your customer they've got an idea of what they want, or the client, but they're not the expert. So our job is to show that we understand their problems and their concerns and their fears, but we've got to show them the way. So great pick up, Stacey, is you've got to be the authority. Diana's got the headings, the verbs, pain points. Do I want to connect better? Yes. Yep. Great. Excellent. Gary's got this brochure also makes them think, it looks like other people are doing this. We'd better get on board. So exactly. Great pickup, Gary. It's kind of like, oh, okay. So this is a thing. So, okay. This looks like it's not just us. This must actually be something people are doing. I love that, Gary. Yeah. Particularly the testimonials and social proof. But the fact you've taken the time to, even the value model and the journey is, you've got deep insight into where they're going. And that's when they go, oh, so it's not just us. There's other people who do this. Yeah, great pickup. Okay, excellent. So and then I'm going to, so a couple of things. I'll just point out a couple of things so you know why I've done them, and then I'll do the public one. I'm just going to keep an eye out if anyone's got, yeah, just see if anyone's got any comments. Feel free to comment anything else that you're noticing. So the first thing was, I had a really good testimonial. You don't always have this, but top of the page here was I had a testimonial that said their sales grew 66%. So that was really prime real estate up there on the cover. I don't put myself on covers as much. This is something that was more a branding thing, because I was teaching personal branding and I was putting more branding of myself on things. But with corporate, I've cut all that right back. It's okay for public market, but if I had my time again, I would have kept that on the front. But what I found at the time, not as much now, but at the time, people were okay with, you know, your face on covers of brochures. I never put faces on white papers. But if I was doing this today, I wouldn't have myself on the cover. I've got the promise. So again, you might remember from the white paper you did the other day is that, you know, some of these things are all the problems and all the things that, you know, the clients are looking for. So you're essentially pulling across almost all the information that you had in your white paper the other day. So some of it's very similar. What I put in is I've put in some things that this is what I notice, and these again would come out of your white paper. So what are you noticing? Be the leader, you know, lead the conversation, show them this is what I notice when I'm out there working with people. The next thing they're looking for is relevance. So is this program specific for me? So you might remember when we talked about Michael Port and Book Yourself Solid, he said, you got to put the red rope policy in. So who is this program right for? I haven't gone in as much as, you know, on who it's not for, but just be clear about who this helps, because it builds trust, because otherwise it looks like you're just trying to sell to everybody and you're desperate. So just makes it really nice and clear. We've got learning outcomes. So this program can help you and your team, and these are the learning outcomes, and they're generally the specific ones that people have said that they've wanted from me as well. Then I've got the big idea. So you might remember that from your back from your white paper as well. So I've had to sort of play with it a bit. Sometimes your graphic design, you have to muck around a little bit to get formatting, so it doesn't have to be in this exact format. You might have those split out, but these outcomes matched the model. Down here, then, as I said, I had to put this other model in, which showed a more, like if you imagined a Google zoom out, like I had to just sort of zoom out for a second, go, okay, at the organizational level, here's what we've got to do. And normally I'd put that at a bit earlier in the brochure for something like a leadership program, but I had to do this later because people just only understood LinkedIn at the time. LinkedIn was so early. I was teaching this back in 2014. People only understood LinkedIn in the context of their own profile back then. So I found it was, and this is the beauty of when you go to the sales meetings, your brochure ideally flows with the exact conversation that you're having in the meeting. So you're not flipping between pages and jumping around, is that everything matches the flow of the conversation. So, and that was what I found, was that I was trying to have this conversation, but people's headspace were back in here in their individual profiles. So pay attention in your meetings, because if it feels clunky and you feel like, oh, I had to flip pages and go to another section, your brochure's out of order compared to the way that the meeting is going. It needs to look seamless, it needs to be elegant, and you're not flustered in your meeting. The next one was the flow chart. So I'm just going to check in. Who noticed the flow chart? And what were your insights? So we've got Jessica's got, and when you look, it's fabulous, Jane, and why not? Thank you, Jessica. Those photos are old now. Maybe I'm going, I think I'll go on the back of the brochure. But keen to and you're welcome to unmute yourself or comment. Any observations or comments on this flow chart? What did it say to you, or any insights you got from having a flow chart there? Feel free to unmute yourself or comment.
Go, Gary.
You're right, Stacey.
I guess a few things for me. I mean, it addresses common questions like what happens, how do we do it, where do we start, who does what. So I think it addresses a lot of that. Yes. But also, again, I think you're demonstrating authority. Like, this is the experience. This is how we do it. This is how we've done it before.
Yeah.
Or how I've done it before. So I think, again, you're kind of just reinforcing all of those elements, but you're also, I think, leading them to the potential for your plus programs, because you're showing the steps again, in that flow.
That's it. Yep, spot on. It makes it easier too. So I've positioned the bigger profile, and if I'm really frank, I actually didn't really enjoy selling the bigger program because it was such a big job. And it's a lot of herding cats. And but at the same time, I went for it because no one in the market was delivering it this way at the time. And I still don't know of anyone sort of doing it this way. but it was designed for people to see the value of what you bring. So they go, oh, wow, there's a lot to it, isn't there? And you go, there is a lot to it. So instead of getting, if I just put, you know, yeah, we'll include all these things and we'll just put 40 grand on that, they go, what? 40 grand? What do you get for 40 grand? And then, you know, they can't see it. So what I've done is not only position this, but what I found was when I had just the pricing model like that, was that it was actually really hard for people to, they saw all these inclusions, but they couldn't understand why they needed all that stuff. And so it wasn't until we got, but without having the flowchart there, the flowchart helped them to understand, oh, now I understand why we need all that. That's exactly right. Now I get it. Whereas at this point, they're still in a headspace of, I'm trying to decide between an option and I'm trying to work out budget. But first of all, what we've got to do is say, here's how I run it. And so they go, yep, that sounds right. That sounds like that would suit us. That's what we're trying to do. Equally, if they don't have that kind of budget, which is totally fine, so they can choose what suits them. So let's say they went for this cheaper price point, which is the silver one, is I could come back up here and I could just simply cross out the sections that they didn't think that they needed. So I go, okay, so based on, and they go, we just don't have that kind of budget. And I go, that's okay. So tell me what, you know, based on the outcome, or like what if now that I know what kind of budget you got, or they go, oh, I don't know. I go, well, but the problem you've got is this. So here's what I would suggest is that we cut these webcasts out so that it feels customized, and it is customized. It's not just feeling customized, but I'm listening to what they're saying. And I've got the freedom to tweak it as well based on the conversation that we're having. And they can see exactly the value that they're getting based on what I'm taking out. And it's so much more visual. So people will be able to, they can process that information far more than they can here. If that
and
makes
just on that, would
yes.
you, is it an option perhaps to do 3 sort of versions of the flow chart? So you've got the silver, gold and platinum one?
Too much overwhelm, Gary. So I just recommend put the flow chart in of the program you want to sell. And then edit from there. So then if you said, I really like in my case, if I said, oh, I really like selling the gold one, I would have gone, I'm too busy. I don't want to sell any more platinum ones. So if anything, I probably would have just taken it off. But if I go, I'm really busy at the moment, I can only do gold ones. So I would change the model so that only the gold process is put in. So whatever you want to sell, make sure that flow chart is done in there. So I literally drew that on a piece of paper and I took a photo of it and sent it to the graphic designer. I had no idea how to even draw that, and I didn't want to muck around with it in PowerPoint and try and get all my lines straight. And so I scrawled it on a piece of paper and took a photo. And so that's pretty quick. Sorry, Gary, you got another question?
Yeah, no, that was just my thought that, as you said, when you've got with the pricing model, people have trouble picturing what that looks like. And I just wondered, and you've sort of explained it, but I just wondered how what's on the left-hand side of the, all the details of the pricing model, how that fits into this model. Do they ever ask you about that, or you sort of led them through that?
I just led them through it and just explained why we were doing certain bits at certain times. The other benefit of having the whole thing on there is it's just easy to cut out the bits depending on the pricing model. Whereas if you've put a bit of a pricing model or a bit of the flow chart, then you're trying to draw all the other bits on. So I just found it easier to put the whole thing on. And then if they go, oh, we'll do this middle one, I'll go, oh, that's okay. So what we're going to do is cut that. Does that sound okay? So then it's just visually easier for them to process.
Yep.
Yeah, great question, Gary. So Gianna's got the flowchart told. It sets my expectations about what needed to be done. Yeah, Great. Excellent. So it's not got all these weird hidden things. It creates certainty, and people want certainty when they're in the unfamiliar. So they go, oh, okay, great. I've got a sense of where we're going now, because this is stuff they're just like, I don't know. I have no idea how to do any of this. Inclusions. So again, I just mentioned before, is give yourself the room to explain all of these. I find some people try to do pricing and then put all the explanation in each one. It's too much. So just pull all that out, put the explanations back there, and then you can it just means this document is this page is far more succinct. Testimonials obviously create social proof. My question to you is, what did you notice about the frequently asked questions? What insights did you have? Gary's got timings of each week on the flowchart, help to justify the cost. Exactly. You can see this is happening over the course of several weeks and months. Exactly. So if they go, oh, we haven't got everyone for that sort of time, it's okay. And then we just come in and do a one-day workshop. That's fine. But if you're serious and you want the return, you're trying to get $1 million in revenue in the next 12 months. I'm not going to get that in a day, but I could do that over 90 days. So, so spot on, Gary. Yep. It's that they can see what's happening. Yet they don't feel like they're in the dark and there's going to be all these weird surprises. It builds trust. Great. Any comments, thoughts? Feel free to unmute yourself if you like on the FAQs. Why would we have those in there? Questions on FAQ are written from the client's point of view. Beautiful, Gary. Well done. Yep, spot on.
For me, you're addressing all of the obstacles to the sale.
That's exactly what they are. Yes. Spot on. Great pickup. So the things that, what I would like to do with everyone in this group is, in the Facebook group after today, I want to walk through how to do your brochure. But what I want to do in the Facebook group is I want you to share your offer of the program that you're delivering. And what we're going to do for each other is we're going to put down what questions or concerns you would have about your program, and you're not allowed to respond to any of them. You're not allowed to justify yourself or explain yourself. All you're allowed to do is say thank you. Okay. So for each of us, so after this session today, what I want you to do, so how I got this exercise, I was in a workshop where I did this, and what we had to do was we had to stand in front of the group and we had to explain what our offer was, and we had to not say anything, and everybody was able to say what they were thinking about the program. If I was the customer buying your program, what would my concerns be? And we were not allowed to justify ourselves, not allowed to say anything. We just had to cop it. And so it was like, it was hard to do, because you're like, oh, but I just want to explain myself. I want to explain myself. So, but this is absolute gold. So what I'd really like you to do is to put your brochure up in the group. And then what I'd like you to do is tell us what your program is. And then I want everybody to comment on each person's one and say, if I was tell us who your customer is, by the way. So if I'm Jessica, if I've got a program if my program is money mindset for female business owners, or whatever it might be, is that I'm going, okay, well, what if my husband doesn't, agree with me, or my partner, or I'm thinking, isn't this just woo-woo? Or some of those types of things that might come up. So we're going to throw rocks. We're going to throw rocks with kindness. So our goal is to throw rocks at each of our programs and each of our things we're delivering. Pretend you're the customer and you're sitting there going, I don't trust this, or I don't. So I want you to be the devil's advocate and and then what you get to choose, you don't have to put all the questions into your brochure, but I want you to choose the ones that come up most for the clients that you speak with. So is everyone okay with that? Happy to do that from today. It's super helpful. It's totally life-changing. Or it is for your programs. So okay, excellent. So we've got FAQs, and we've got Look at all these ones. And you've got my sample, so you can come and have a look if you're stuck and you're not sure what to do. How do you prove a return on investment? All that. You've got your positioning and a bit about you. I'm going to assume you know how to do that. If you need anything checked, please put it in the Facebook group. I'm happy to do that. And then steps from here. So you have to be clear about what you want them to do next. Now, the only thing I would comment on is if you are doing this in a tool like PandaDoc or, these are electronic proposal documents, or what's the other one? There's PandaDoc and there's, some tip my tongue. Some of you might use them. Anyway, there's electronic platforms. There's one called PandaDoc and the other one, Proposify. Proposify is the other one. They charge money. They're about $50 a month. But you can import it, you can pull all these things in and import them. You can put videos in. So I do a video with every proposal now, and or any brochure like this. But if they're done in tools like Proposify or PandaDoc, you can put that within the proposal, and it also has a sign-off, electronic sign-off, and so it goes off for payment and all sorts of things. So, but this is more the let's do this for free at the moment, so you haven't got any expenses going out, but you can go and use those tools. I just generally recommend for most people is they're good to bring in, usually once you're starting to get past, the 40, 50K type mark, or even if your overall revenue is past sort of 300 to 400, you can start to invest in some of those things, 300 to 400K in revenue. But the purpose of the video is, remember, this document is talking for you when you're not there. And the video, so video massively increases your close rate with these. So I would highly recommend that every time you have one of these go out is that you do a video walking through your proposal or walking through this brochure, if you like. So we call it a brochure just because we don't want to be doing proposals. We want to do a brochure and adjust as we go. So if you could do a video and a walkthrough, I definitely have closed most sales through having a video and walking through. So now Jessica, so just quickly, and then we're going to have a quick 5-minute break, and then you're going to tackle yours. For those who have got public market, so people who are paying for themselves, actually, I'm just going to stop for a sec. Any questions on this brochure before I jump off this one? Just give you a chance to ask anything.
Can I just ask about the video?
Yes.
And so with the video pieces, is that for even when you've had a meeting, or are you thinking more like you're sending it online because that's the option you've got in communicating with the client?
Yeah, so I might have, let's say I've had a meeting with the client. I might have gone face to face. So it's a couple of things. I might have gone face to face with the meeting with one person, but I go, and let's say they haven't been able to decide in the meeting of dates and all that sort of stuff. They go, I've got to go and talk to this committee. And I go, that's fine, no problem. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send you an electronic version, and if you like, I'll just do a short video and walking through it, and that way you can pass it on to them as well, because they can't sell it like you can sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know with if you do Proposify, you can embed the video. What's your suggestion? Would you just attach the brochure and the video to your
I
email,
just do it
basically?
in video or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
Say, here's a link, or if it's on your YouTube channel or whatever you want to use. And I just do that. That's fine. And just do a walkthrough like that. I would just say, hi there, everyone. Thanks so much for your interest in the program. My name's Jane. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
thank you. Imagine you're sitting with them. That's it. Great. Any other questions before I do a business to consumer one? No. Okay. All right. I'll quickly do big business to consumer one, and because it's much quicker. And then we'll just have a quick 5-minute break, and then you're going to tackle yours. So where are we? I just had it before. Is it gone? How did I open before? Okay, let me find that for a sec. Dropbox. Where are we? sorry, Jane, mentoring, medical audio, here we go. Share screen. Marketing, medical, interview, why, here's the latest one. Oh yeah, that's the print version. Okay, that's the PDF version for the website. Okay, so just an aside too is that with brochures for corporate, they don't belong on websites. That you don't give out any pricing until you've had a conversation with people. So that's the only way they will get pricing from you. Otherwise, you can, if you can't get a meeting, give them a range. Do not ever give a final price without having conversations. You could be delivering your program in the middle of a rainforest in Bhutan and you haven't budgeted for that. So just make sure that you're not giving any pricing until you've had a meeting. Okay, this is the business to consumer one. So, or equally if somebody's paying for themselves. So if I say, if I'm Gary, if I'm doing coaching programs with consultants, speakers, trainers, this is much shorter. This can go on your website. So it also could possibly, maybe a corporate program, maybe, I'm just a bit careful sometimes, but if someone's paying for themselves with credit card, then, so this is public market. So again, let me just move this so you can see the brochure. Oh, the joys of working with screens. Okay, let's try this. Medical interview coaching. Okay, I want you to just jot down what is it that you noticed. So tell me what you noticed. So we have the program. So it's medical interview coaching. It says, have you got a specialist interview coming up? It's your one shot and you want to get it right. It's highly competitive and you need to stand out from the competition. So we have a value model here and the currency is confidence for this group. So I want to feel 100% confident going in. We have a little bit of information here. We all hate selling ourselves, but medical interviews are one of those times where you can't be shy. You have to stand out for the crowd, of course. There's a way to give the panel to hear what they want without blowing your own trumpet. Regardless of the specialty, panel interviews can be scary if you're not prepared. The panelists usually show little emotion, which makes it difficult to know if what you're saying is hitting the mark. And when you're unsure, you feel flustered. Your confidence nosedives, you stumble through your answers, and you may leave the interview feeling as though you'll never have to try again next year. Or that feeling as though you'll have to try again next year or even apply for another specialty. That one there is their biggest fear. So they've done all this work. They've spent 10 years working towards becoming a plastic surgeon, and now I have to change over to orthopedics. Are you serious? Like, can you imagine you've worked for something for 10 years and you can't get in, and you've done all the research, you know, you've done X projects. So that one there is their biggest fear. But the rest of this is the problem set. This is all the things that they've said to me. So types of specialties. So this, you are the right fit for you. This is the right program for you if, so these are the specialties that I do. You'll walk away from this. So the specific outcomes, clear understanding of what the panel wants to hear, specific feedback, knowing how to craft your answers, a framework to build effective answers, the confidence to know how to anticipate questions. We've got our main model here, the big idea. By the way, it doesn't always have to be Venn diagrams and value models. They could be sigmoid curves. They could be quadrant models. So these are just, I just prefer to use those. You don't have to use those. We've got some testimonials as well. And again, we've got some price points. So we've got bronze, silver, gold. I've got to do it yourself with some coaching, and then mostly coaching with the online program as some support. And just a bit of an explanation on, just to help people self-select which one would suit them. So this one's good if you're preparing well in advance, you want access to information and you're on a budget. So bear in mind, these are students. They don't have very much money at all. They're very early in their career, so they're not specialists already. They're not driving Lamborghinis just yet. And so just put, there's the information about what you get. So you've got the course, you've got a copy of the book, feedback on examples, coaching sessions, phone call, email support, number of coaching sessions and mock interviews. Got the total value and then the investment, and they're delivered face to face. I've got a copy of the book, and then so the book is there just to show that I've got that, and then a bit about me. And so I'm just going to stop for a sec, and then observations. Anything you notice? So this is someone paying for themselves, and it would go on the website. Feel free to unmute yourself or comment.
Yeah, I just had a comment. I'm not
Yeah,
in
go
the
down.
industry and I don't know anything about it, but when I look at that table about the bronze, silver and gold, and when
Yeah.
you're talking about someone's worked 10 years for something, I feel like it would be really, like even for me personally, it would be really hard to go for anything other than gold.
I know, right?
Because when I'm looking at this,
So much at stake.
how do you pick what part of that coaching? Like, it's a very emotive sell to me. Like when I look at it, I go, I want to nail it. I absolutely want the mock interview. And it's like, I straight away went right to that and just went, oh God, what do I want to forgo? And at what cost? It's really hard not to go for gold. It's like, nah, it's either all in or nothing.
Yeah. I know, right? So
that table clearly outlines that decision.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, like, you're not dealing with that once the sales happened. It's kind of like your person's dealt with that once before the transaction's been made. They've had to reason it in their own head and validate it.
Yes. Yeah, and they've decided themselves. So this is sort of, because this is available online, they can go and have a look at it. They can decide for themselves. So it's not me trying to tell them, and I'm not trying to get them into a sales meeting. All I'm doing is saying, you choose. So when I launched this, so this is a program I've delivered for nearly 12 years, and there's only a few people in the market that do it. There's competitors who have come in very cheap now. But I'm happy to stick with my positioning on it because I know it gets results. So, and equally, they could self-opt out. If you really don't have budget, there are other people who are much cheaper than me. You can work with them, that's fine. But doctors want the best, they're used to the best. And they'll, like I work through the night, I work through midnight with doctors and they're off shifts. I'll do stupid hours. I just keep going until they're 100%. If it means I've got to do 5 extra sessions, I do 5 extra sessions. I factor all that in. So
even that in itself would be cause to make me self-check. If I got a quote from someone else and it was so much cheaper, you couldn't help but kind of go, oh, now I'm not sure. Like, am I getting a made in China version, or am I getting
Exactly. And we have an 80% success rate for people who do an attempt on the first go. So all that's on the website as well. So you're right. Pricing is a really big part of branding. So it's a bit like, if you saw a Louis Vuitton handbag and it had a $50 ticket on it, you'd wonder if it's fake. So, so it's the same thing with this. Is your pricing is really important part of the value proposition. So, because pricing is often the thing that people understand. I've got to demonstrate the value. We've all got to demonstrate our value, but at the same time, we also need to explain the value so that people can go, oh man, that's a tough choice. And so, good pickup is that the customer is empowered to make their own decision. But if they need help, so if they jump on a call, so what happens is most people will jump on a call and they'll say, I'm not sure if I need the gold, but silver, I could afford to do the silver, I'm just not sure about the gold. Depending on the specialty, the year that I launched this is every single client bought gold, but I actually more wanted them to do the silver. So like it's a lot less work. But they all bought that. So doctors are prestige buyers. They generally want the best. So they'll often buy the top option. But for a lot of them, I would say, well, if they got on the phone, like if they're confused, so you're right, Gianna, is they'll go, if they're in angst, is because then we get to here and they go, sessions that, you know, to take away your nerves, contact Jane. So then they jump on a call. Go, I don't know which one I need and I'm nervous. Is that going to be overkill for me? So there's a conversation to have. And I say, well, when was the last time you went for an interview? How many interviews have you got left on this specialty? And I go, oh, it's my last attempt. And I go, oh, okay, we're doing gold. Whereas if they go, oh, it's my second time, you know, but I really struggle. You know, there's one lady I had who, she engaged a performance coach, a speaking coach, and me. And she got through in the end, but I reckon she spent, you know, probably about 20 grand on coaching to be able to get through it. She was a bundle of nerves. So she threw everything at it and she got on. But equally, when I worked with her, I said, look, I can do the content, but you actually need someone to work with you a bit more around mindset and performance under pressure. So I can do this bit, but your mindset, I can get some of it done, but you sort of need to work with a psych on this bit, because I just couldn't crack her on one bit. So I just said, you go do that, and that way I can focus. And also my time, I'm not wasting too much time and money and her money on things that it wasn't my expertise.
Jane, can I just share really great question that Simon Bowen teaches in his space. I don't know if anyone else is familiar with Simon Bowen, but he works a lot in the modelling space, and in particular in models that sell. And he said one of the questions that you can use to change the conversation when people have that dilemma about price, even though they can see value and that sort of thing, is the question is, if price wasn't an issue, why would you want to do this program?
Yeah, good question.
And it just completely, well, because I want this and this and this and this, and then they basically sell themselves.
Right, okay, that's a great question. Yeah, and they then still work out, you know, what is right for them. But sometimes people are drawn into the more expensive price option too, just because it's status. And you go, oh, well, now that I know that, you actually just need this. So what I love about this model too, and you're right, Stacey, is if you can ask the right questions, is that it's honest. Like you're not trying to manipulate anybody. You're empowering them to make a decision between which one, as opposed to yes or no as well. Great. Thanks, Stacey. Super helpful. I love that. So the question is if price were no option, why would you be doing this program? Okay. Great. Jessica's got comments here: addressing their currency, confidence, biggest fears, problem set, what they walk away with, sharing the big idea, pricing models to self-reflect. Excellent. Great insights. You've picked up on all of that, Jessica. Well done. And Kelly's got really speaks to their problems empathetically at the start. It gives them a feeling, I want this. Right amount of information. It's not too much overwhelm, and it's shorter than the B2B. Great, Kelly. Well done. So with brochures for public market, they generally need to be a bit shorter, but the landing pages for public market on a website actually need to be longer. They need more testimonials usually on the website. So, but for corporate is that the website pages are often a little bit shorter, but the brochures are longer. So good pickup, great pickup. And the other thing is, like you said, the problems empathetically. I'm not a doctor. Doctors don't trust people who aren't doctors to help them to get onto specialty training programs, especially. So, you know, they're not trusting. They trust each other. It's a very word of mouth type program. So, and if you get the results, which have been able to, then that's what creates the results. So to get the cut through is particularly in a competitive space, but in my space, I wasn't necessarily competing with a lot of people. I'm competing with cheap players in the market, but more so what I'm competing with is their mindset that I'm not a doctor. And so you haven't, but I've been on panels, I've trained panels how to recruit, I've written competency frameworks, you know, all that is over on the website and in the video and things like that they see. But it's really important to address those problems empathetically, because there's a lot of clients that won't necessarily trust you. And in my case, doctors definitely don't trust people who are not doctors. But this one is, I sell out every year. They fill up my calendar. and they provide a full belt. So usually about 120,000 a year that this will generate in revenue. Okay, cool, great. All right, so what we're going to do is we've got a little bit over time on before we got a break. I usually like to get a break a little bit earlier. How about we have a 3-minute break and then we're going to get into your brochure. So we'll come back. It's 11:11 now, 4-minute break. Come back on at 11:15. How does that sound? Stretch your legs, grab a quick cuppa, and we'll get into your brochure. All right, I'm just going to pause the recording. Okay, so just to recap, the purpose of the white paper was to open conversation, and as you said, Kelly, the purpose of the brochure is to close the conversation, and is to close the sale. So it's, you've opened it up now, you've got to close it. I find most people who can't close sales is because they've gone to a sales meeting and the sales meeting is opening the conversation, and there's the whole problem. So they're going to a meeting, I've never met you before, yeah, it'd be lovely to catch up, yep, I'll go, and they didn't. So you want to print this brochure and take it to the meeting. So you want to be prepared to close that meeting when you're going to it. It's not a meeting to go and open up the conversation. Is even if you have never met this person before, that white paper needs to go to them before that meeting. So they've got, you're trying to increase all those touch points. So when you get to that meeting, the decision is made, dates are booked in, and you don't have to walk out doing anything. The people who do this the best are those who walk out. Your goal is to walk out with no work to do. So if you can have that mindset, I'm walking out of this meeting ideally with no work to do. If you've got a proposal, maybe I have to tweak a couple of numbers, but in the meeting, by the time you've finished that meeting, it's clear, are we on the same page with budget? Have we got dates? Is that your goal is to be getting a yes or a no, and dates are booked in. And so, I mean, even Stacey, you would remember, this is kind of how PEP used to sell as well. So Stacey and I were consultants for PEP Worldwide, which is a productivity training company. And essentially what they would do is they would be going to meetings. They had all this set up. This is how they had the brochures as well, which is how the program worked. And when they went to sales meetings, is that they were literally booking in dates and contacting us when they were in the meetings to say, are you available on this date? So they were going to one meeting and closing, but they had all this set up. So it's the same kind of thing. And then we talked about, so difference between brochure and white paper, positioning versus pricing, and why versus how. We talked about how this fits in the context of the ecosystem. If you've done all your 12 key skills, if you've got a sales problem, you've more often than not got a marketing problem. If you've got a marketing problem, you've usually got a branding problem. So if you're not closing in these sales, more often than not, it's because we haven't had enough touch points before we've got to this point. However, not saying that you can't close. This document will allow you to close as effectively as you can, even if people haven't been through that process. But if they have been through that process, you'll more than likely close this very quickly. And by that stage, they just want to get on with it anyway. So it's not like you're trying to manipulate. This isn't dishonest selling. It's about a way to create some options for people so that they feel empowered in the choices that they're making and choosing what's right for them. And you're also able to advise, because when you go to the meeting, you're not just making it up going, oh yeah, we can do that, and we can do that, and yeah, we can do that. Is that you're not reacting to what they're saying, is you're coming in as the leader and you're saying, here's how I work. So here's how I work is this, this, this. And they're going, all right. So they're not, an amateur will go in and listen, and we're still listening, but a professional and the authority will go in with, here's what I do, here's how the program works. Based on what you're saying, is this based on what I'm hearing you say? Okay, so what you need, and it allows you to diagnose as opposed to be building something for them. What happens is if you're doing something for them, you can still tweak, but what happens is it puts you into a commoditized space. And so it's going to affect your pricing, and you are going to come in. So if you do a proposal as opposed to this way, you'll end up with probably about half the amount of revenue that you've got. So it'll really affect your pricing. That's why we obsess around personal brand and positioning, because all those things create the uniqueness. So when you come to this moment, that they go, I can't do it with anybody else. I get to do it the Stacey. I want to do it the Stacey Ashley way. This is how she does it. So as opposed to how do you want to do this? We're trying to be helpful and accommodating, but they're not the expert in how to solve this problem. We're the expert in that. So we've got to lead them. So I'm just going to stop for a sec and just check in on what's been helpful or insightful so far. Gary's like, I'm here and eating, so I've muted. That's okay. But just, I just want to check in on, and we've talked about the difference between two brochures. We talked about B2B brochure is quite long, B2C brochure is quite short, but compared to landing pages, B2B landing pages are often a bit shorter. B2C landing pages are often much longer. B2C market usually need a lot more on testimonials and heaps of stuff on pages if they're paying for themselves. So just to check in, feel free to comment or unmute yourself. What insight have you had so far before we get into this part of your brochure? What are you learning about your own work? Go, Stacey.
I think for me, it just sort of really clarified the value of, for example, actually listing out all of the inclusions, as well as the process, as well as the investment table, because it's sort of it's almost speaking to different learning preferences and all that kind of thing, so that, you know, they get it, and it really is cementing the value that you bring. And I think, as you said, it's talking for you when you're not in the room. And I think for me, that is quite sort of powerful. I mean, I personally, would I necessarily need that myself? No, but do they? Yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, your brochure it's not designed to make you look good. It's designed to make that person look good. Yeah. So, you know, it's about, they're going to take that and they're going to have to talk to others about this, make them look really good, so that they, you know, because we don't have to make us look good. We know how to do it. But the more you can make them look good, give them the tools, because there's others involved in this decision usually. Yeah, great pickup, Stacey. Good. What else? What other insights are you having? Feel free to pop it in the chat as well. Just as helpful, insightful. Who's going, oh my God, I should have done this so long ago. I got nothing.
Well, that would be me. That would be me.
I was the same. You're in good company, Stacey. I was the same. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So let's get on with it. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I've put the sample of this in the Facebook group. So hopefully you've downloaded that by now. Some of these bits and pieces, and this is why I did the white paper first, so that the hardest work was done first. And that, so by the time, because I knew you'd be getting tired, and by this stage I was like, okay, I'm trying to ease off on the things that hopefully get the hardest things done first, so you can use what you've got. And hopefully is just start to tweak these things. And equally, as your business grows, is that, you know, you've got all these templates set up. So as you're launching classes and launching programs, so I've launched, I think we're up to 22 clusters over the 22 programs, launching something every quarter and constantly refining. But I've launched, I think we're up to about 22 programs and I've got about 12. So we've failed half, whereas prepared to fail half as we go. And so it's sometimes helpful to have the permission, that you've got that permission to fail. And but these give you speed, but traction. So if you've got these documents done. Now, I've done this super plain and deliberately, so it's got no branding or anything on it. Hopefully you can see my screen, yes? So normally I would go, oh, it's got to have all this branding and everything over, but I've kept this super plain so that you can just put your content in and take it straight to your designer. So I've just put the spots here. So program brochure, cover page. So the value proposition, your left and right brain statements, which is what we did back on your white paper. Do you remember what you've got for those? So you can get your cover design for what your program's called. I'll let your designer do that. But who's got a thumbs up to say, yep, I remember I did have the value proposition. I've got my left and right brain statements. I've got that from my white paper. I'm all good. Yes, got a thumbs up for that. Excellent. And Gary's still chomping away, so I'm going to take Gary's thumbs up anyway. I'll assume. Then the question I've got here is the big problem. So this is really about, why does what you do matter? You might remember we talked even a little bit about this when we did, can you remember? It starts with L. We did a document that starts with L. It was the first paragraph that we did in the About You area. Can anyone remember? It was actually the first paragraph from your LinkedIn profile.
I was going to say LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah, well done. So the big problem, so why does what you do matter? So the big problem is do you remember what yours was, Stacey?
Oh, mine's all about the that leaders are faced with the complexities of the globalization, fast-paced change, blah 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 blah, and they need to be able to lead under those conditions.
Beautiful. There you go. So go over to your LinkedIn profile, grab that, and pop that in here, because we did that work the other day. You may choose to expand on that a little bit more if you need to, Stacey, which is fine. So again, just use some of these resources that you've built already, and you've already done the thinking. So the big problem, and that's normally, I might tweak this a little bit as I go, is you just, this is a paragraph on why what you do matters. And you could take this from your LinkedIn profile, provided you put that on. Oh, if already done. Okay, I'll update this in the document anyway, in the Facebook group. Okay, then if you're a market who, now you don't have to use this exact language. I've more so just at least put it in as prompters if it sounds a bit tacky. So do you notice the difference in the language as well with the white paper versus the brochure? So notice the white paper was not salesy at all. It was, this is what's going on in the world. Here's what the research is telling us. Here's what you need to be mindful of. Whereas in the brochure, we're selling. So it's, if this program, do you find, or are you finding, or do you find you have the problem? Are you an expert who has the following challenges? Or if I'm Kelly Tomney, are you an executive in the professional services industry? So you're very specific about the market you're serving, who's having this problem. I'm feeling unfulfilled. I feel like this is all I've, there has to be life more than this, than coming to work and going home every day. Do you find that you're not able to crack those new senior positions? Is it, so whatever that problem set is, just make sure you're really clear here on who your market is. So feel free to just pop any comments there, and if anyone's stuck, but you might remember, so I typically recommend the ratio of 3 to 2. And you might remember when we did the brochure the other day, we talked about those problems and fears as well. We've also put them on your LinkedIn profile. So a ratio usually of 3 to 2 is a nice sweet spot. Anything more than that, when you talked about fears with clients, face-to-face or in documents, it can feel like a bit too much of a slap in the face to them. It's quite hurtful. So I just say, just be a bit gentle. Is you're still showing empathy and insight and understanding, but you might remember with the doctor's one, I had all those problems, and I just said that last little bit that Kelly picked up on, which was, it's your biggest, are you afraid that you're not going to get onto your specialty? Is that you're going to have to choose another specialty. Now, if I said that up the front, that's like smacking them in the face way too hard. That's hurtful. So I've got to be gentle, and then I can show, and then they go. And I reckon with your brochure, when you're putting your problems and fears together, imagine you're talking through this with someone, and your problems are generally, imagine they're talking to them and they're nodding, like they're going, yeah, that's true. That's right. Like, but when you get to fears, and you know this even if you're speaking on stage, when you talk about fears, you get, they go, oh, okay, now she really gets me. Like, the head rolls back or the nods are more exaggerated. So imagine it's like that. The problems are like, oh yeah, that's right, that's true. And then the fears, they go, oh, like they either go forward or they go right back, and their whole body language changes. So it's the same thing. Now, so thumbs up that everyone's okay with that from doing the white paper the other day, and you're okay to put in there, and equally pop them up in the Facebook group. I'm happy to have a look at them. Gary, you're okay? Traveling okay? Okay, good. Okay, the next part I've just put here is paragraph 1 and 2 is the challenge and the opportunity. So the challenge here is that this is the challenge that you see. So this is the big problem, but here's the problems that people are having. And then this could be the challenge for you as the buyer. So if I'm working with, Kelly, for example, so let's say you've got your client saying, I don't have a plan. I don't know. I just seem to have fallen into things. And I don't know, opportunities have just come along, but I've never been really conscious about what I'm doing. I want to earn more money. I want to be rewarded for my hard work. And so the challenge you've got in here is, what would be the challenge for them? This is where you're saying, so here's the challenge. Here's what's going on. What would you say to them? What do you reckon? I'll let you unmute yourself there, Kelly. Kelly Tomney, can you hear me? Yeah. I'll let you unmute yourself. What do you think they would say?
Sorry, I thought you were talking to Kelly Glover, but it looks like she's gone
had
off.
to go and work with the Apple guy. What would you say to them here?
Here, the challenge that they've got here. So their problems. So their challenge is that they don't feel that they haven't branded themselves. They've been always spending more time just on doing the work and the stakeholders in the business. So they've never positioned themselves. They keep getting headhunted to one thing to the other. But now the future of work has changed. So their whole bargaining position, their whole power position has completely changed.
Yes.
So, that would be one of the challenges.
Beautiful. So that's your insight here. So this is still insight up here, but this is a little bit deeper. So you're going, so here's what is really going on, is that these look like your problems, but this is what's showing up as a result. The impact of those things is that you're not getting opportunities. The future of work has created this marketplace, and you might probably not even be aware that that's what's going on. So you've earned the right to say all that now, because you've addressed the problems and fears. So that's excellent. Well done. So you're spot on. That's exactly what we're going there. So thumbs up for who's going, yep, I think I know what I've got to put in there into the challenge. Does anyone need help? No, you're okay. Great. Gary, you're okay. And right. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got everyone. Yep. Okay. The opportunity. So the opportunity is, so here's the solution. Here's what we need to be, well, the opportunity is, here's what you need to be thinking about. So is that the opportunity is that there's more women trying to get into senior roles. The opportunity is that, organizations want to become employer of choice. So when you're an employer of choice, you start to be able to attract great talent. So what's the opportunity? You don't have to say the word opportunity. You may call it something else, but you can put these two together. I just find the opportunity. So if I'm Diana, is that the opportunity, here's the opportunity. The opportunity is to be able to attract and keep great talent, is to increase the capability of people in their compliance standards. It was in standards, wasn't it? The opportunity here is, rather than let things just deteriorate, the opportunity here is to actually make them better, because if you can make them better, well, you're going to finish projects on time, you're going to finish them on budget, they're going to be able to create a return, so it's finding the opportunity in the problem. So what is it that you're solving? Does that help, Diana, for that? Does anyone need help with the opportunity for theirs? Just feel free to unmute yourself, or a thumbs up that you're all good. Great, thanks, Stacey. Kelly's okay. Yes, Jessica's okay. And Diana, you're okay.
Jane, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Gary, far away.
So my stuff is about communication, helping people to have conversations that achieve the outcomes that they want. So they struggle with that, they're not getting the results. So can I just run this past you? So the opportunity is, rather than accepting it, it's improving your ability to hold those conversations.
Beautiful.
Is that high enough? Is that
Spot
kind of...
on. Yeah, the opportunities to, and to lead the conversations, to have the influence. The opportunity is that people are waiting to be led. Is that the confusion that the people are in confused state, they're in overwhelm, they're in stress, and so this creates the opportunity for you to have a greater voice, but to create that clarity and remove confusion for people. And the other opportunities, and that's not just face to face. Today, that's going to be digital. Today, that's in webinars. Today, that's part of the work from home approach. How the opportunity is the workplace has changed, and this creates an opportunity for you to be able to really step up, is essentially where you're coming from. So this is kind of, if you had your motivational rant, imagine you're a motivational speaker for 2 minutes and you're in the big opening keynote. Now is the time, is what you're trying to say.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Great question, Gary. Yep, you're on the right track. Absolutely. So there's plenty. So it's about a paragraph on each of these, and equally you've got the samples in the Facebook group that you can use to rely on. Then you come down, and then you've got your value model, which we did in the white paper the other day. So everyone's okay with that. So I'm just going to skim past that because we've all done that. But if we've got a thumbs up, does anyone need me to explain anything there? I'm happy to stop. Anyone needs me to? No. And just explain each level in the value model. So I've just put a sentence on each. So levels 1 through to 6. I'll probably run out of a little bit of space there. Actually, I should probably just move that up there. Level 5 or level 6? Oh, that's right. It's got 6. I'll have to change that. 5 kind of works nicely. If you need to go to 6, that's fine. But 5 is a nice amount. With the LinkedIn one, there was a lot to do on LinkedIn, and I had to do 6 levels on that one. Then you've got your solution. Again, all this is on your white paper. All you have to do is copy all this over. So is everyone okay with that? I just put, whether it's a Venn diagram, whether it's a quadrant model, whatever it might be. Is everyone okay with that? Thumbs up, because you know where to get that from your document last time. Excellent. Then here, how the program works. Now, I just copy and pasted that workflow in there just so that you had an example to work with. And what I'd like you to do is to just sit down and actually draw your workflow. This was one of the biggest things that was missing in my proposals. And this is what Rachel picked up when she worked with me, is she said, I want you to draw me the process. And I was like, oh God, there's so many moving parts. How do I draw this? So I struggled at first to draw it and explain it. But the more I drew it and the more I put it in front of people to work out whether they could understand it, it got better. And this is where we ended up. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a go at drawing your process. And if you're good at drawing like technology, then whatever it might be, then go for your life. But if you want to give it to a graphic designer on Fiverr and get them to pull it together, then that's always an option as well. But I just really encourage you, what I'd like you to do is have a go at drawing what's the process. What have we got here? Yeah, the work, Gary has just asked the question, the workflow could be the steps of an online coaching program. Definitely. Yep. So, the first thing might be, if it's online coaching, so the first thing might be, your initial strategy session. And then, in a week's time, you've got, okay, so then you have a strategy session. And then after the strategy session, you've got access to all the online materials. We send you meetings to all the meeting requests. The calendar's all booked in. Then by the first session you've got to do a diagnostic or a questionnaire. We identify, you might have some reflective exercises through here. Maybe they've got to read a book throughout the process. And so, yeah, just explain all the steps that are included? Great question, Gary. So just spell it out as if, and because it's easy for us because we've done it so many times, you know, just explain it. You know, I think, what's that saying? Is it, you don't understand something if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old or something like that? Who said that? Is that Einstein, or was it, somebody said that? I can't remember who. But imagine that you are drawing this and explaining it to a 5-year-old. It will feel patronizing when you draw it. And it will feel, you know, you're like, oh, do they really want to know this? Yes. Yeah, we've got to keep it really simple and make it super, super simple to understand. So thumbs up if you're all good to have a go at that. And equally, yep, great, thumbs up for everyone. Equally, if you need help, put it in the Facebook group and put it in, like, is to go, okay, and you can do us a little video if you want, but put the flow chart up, explain to us, you know, put a visual term, and then we'll give you feedback. Say, oh, I don't get it, or, you know, what do we do after that bit? Or, so that can be useful. So feel free to put that up in the Facebook group. It's a great way to iron out your blind spots. Sorry. The next spot here is, what does the program include? So you remember the page when I did the B2B brochure with the LinkedIn one, is I just want you to do a list of what are all the things, and I want you to be creative. So be creative. The more creative you are in all the things that you could include, the better result you're going to get. And even things that you might go, oh, do they really want to know that? Does that actually, you know, even really, you know, but I just do that all the time. Like, you know, so yes, you have to spell every tiny thing out. Because if you don't, they're not mind readers. And secondly, they're not going to understand the value that you bring. And so therefore it's going to affect your pricing, and you're going to be working a lot harder for the outcome. So is everyone happy to use the example of that template that I put in, like that you feel like you can step out all your inclusions? Thumbs up if you're okay. Great. Okay. And equally, again, if you're not sure, put in the Facebook group. Then with your pricing model is, so 3 is the magic number for your pricing model. It always usually works best. You don't always have to have 3-tiered pricing. A lot of this comes from Alan Weiss's work. I don't know if you've followed Alan Weiss, but he's written 17 books on consulting. And he talks a lot about 3-tiered pricing. He's written a book called Value-Based Pricing. A lot of this comes from some of his work. You don't have to do this. If there's only one price and you just work with one price, I find most who are doing $1 million plus have that sort of pricing because they've got confidence in the pricing and they've got positioning, and they go, take it or leave it, I don't care, the next person's going to spend whatever, I don't mind. But while you're building your business and while you're building your practice, this 3-tiered pricing can help you to grow it, because it just gives you a bit of flexibility and you're not losing sales along the way. So you'll notice I've put here inclusion, and I want you to put a value on each of those items. So if you've got, if it's a workshop, if it's a coaching session, if it's a diagnostic, if it's a book, I want you to work out if it's access to online resources. And if you're not sure, ask in the Facebook group. But in your creativity and thinking about what's included, again, you can use mine as a sample if you're trying to work out pricing. This is the key to increasing your revenue and increasing your price points. And so I go hard on a lot of this stuff with people when they've got around 200,000 in their revenues. This is where we really have to make sure that the biggest problem for people usually around that mark in their revenue is that they don't know how to articulate their value. So the purpose of this exercise is to help you to realize that there is a lot of stuff I put in my programs and I'm actually just not explaining it. So who's keen to have a go? And I'd encourage you to just have a go at it. The first time you've done it, you'll go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'll just put all this in. So, and then you might notice the last one, we've put value versus investment. So add up the value of each of those and then work out the investment. So the investment is if they do all that, if they buy all that, I'm prepared to do a good deal for you. So I'm going to do a good deal, and instead of mine was 18,000, I did it for 13. So you save 13,000. Like if you want me to just come and do the workshop, I can. It's 10 grand. But if you do all of those things, it's worth 18, and I'm happy to do it for 13. So I go, okay, that's a pretty good deal. So, so what I'd like you to do is when you put yours together, add it up and then work out what would be the investment for the person who wants to do your program. And aside, Gary, I'm looking for, Gary's question was around ROI. So I look for a minimum ROI of that people will get 10 times back what they spend with me. It's usually a factor of 10x. So if you spend 25 grand with me, I will help you to get a return of 250. So I usually work off those sorts of numbers, particularly if you're doing coaching and things like that. 10x got to be no brainer. So is everyone thumbs up if you're happy to have a go at the pricing model, and who's happy to be clunky and for it to feel weird and to be able good, excellent. And testimonials include a range of people and roles ideally relevant to your buyer. Keep updating these as your practice grows. So this is not concrete. This will keep evolving. Jessica said, yeah, love that. First pancake's always lumpy. That's it. It's awkward before elegant. Absolutely, I love that. So just, I'm not going to put it up on YouTube. I'm not going to put it up on, I'm not going to broadcast it. We're in a safe space, have a go. And then if you can put it up, then I can have a go and work through it. So, and this probably is a little bit with yours, Kelly Tomney, what you were working on was your price. So I do feel like we're starting to sort of address a little bit more around that pricing models for you. Yeah, okay, great. FAQs. So again, I want you to put up in the Facebook group. You might need to break this up when you put in the Facebook group, because everybody might get a little bit overwhelmed if you put too much in. But my advice is put the FAQ up separately. Say my market is, and this is what my program is. Please throw rocks at me in my program. And I want you, and I think the safety in our group is that don't feel like you're going to offend with the question you're going to ask. Do we all agree with the safety of our group that our questions are harsh, but they come with kindness. So they're more so us coming as in devil's advocate, and I'm going to come at you as if, okay, if I'm a customer, what would be the concerns that I would have? So, what if I don't get a result? It could be some of those questions. Do we get our money back? Do we, like, any of those types of questions? So don't be afraid to ask the question. If you've got that instinct, you go, if I was a customer, I would want to ask this. So we're going to say we totally understand it comes with kindness and it's coming from a place of help. So thumbs up if you're happy to put that up. Your FAQs, great, excellent. It will really help in the long term. A lot of people are scared of putting those in, but they make a big difference. It's very courageous. Your page, just a bit about you. So I've put here, this is about building credibility, and it should answer the questions: why you, what makes you unique, who have you worked with, key achievements, publications, media, for example. If you're stuck, you can have a look at mine, but it's probably sitting over on your white paper from the other day anyway. So it should be pretty much the same. Thumbs up if you're okay with that. Great, excellent. And the last one is just your next steps. So just explain what do you need them to do next. So it's a good time to bring in terms and conditions, payment plans, if you've got all those things in place. And then I sort of will usually work that out later, just depending on where they're at, because pricing could be different. Like if it's 100,000, then I'm probably going to do 30% upfront and payment plans. And I'm not going to get into all that straight away with them. All I want to do is get a decision on this, and then we'll work out that bit. We can work that bit out a bit later. So is everyone okay to put their next steps in? They're usually pretty straightforward, but if you're stuck, I'm here to help. Okay, so keen to just check in. We've had a big morning. So we've done comparison to white paper, why you need a brochure, how it fits into you. If we want it to be we want to close the conversation with it. If we want it to be the final touch point, not the first touch point. We're going in with our brochure done. We're ideally leaving a meeting with nothing to do. We are, you use a lot of information out of your white paper. We've walked through the workflow. We've talked about business to business, and we've talked about business to consumer. So just going to, and then we've started to work through yours and to be able to repurpose a lot of that great work you've already done and starting to put it in here into a really powerful document that empowers your customer to make their own decisions, but you also get to lead them and be in service as well and show your authority and expertise. So to wrap up, I'm just going to check in as what's been helpful or insightful for you today. What's been the most useful thing? Feel free to unmute yourself or comment far away.
For me, it's been the fact that we don't do a good job of articulating the value add. We 100% are in that catchment of, we just do all that stuff because we're passionate about what we do. So
yes,
there's a lot of holes for me in that. There's quite a bit of body of work to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly in your part A, because there's a lot of work. That's why you had to split them out, isn't it? Because you do your part A. There's so much work just in the diagnosis of identifying what they need. Yeah.
So that's the big insight.
Great, excellent. Spell it all out. Spell it all out. Great. What else has been helpful today? What insight have you had into your own practice?
So Jane, this has been really valuable because I generally, my format is kind of have a sales call and send them to the sales page for the program. So I had a quick question, which is this something you give to people online or in person? Or because a lot of my clients, I generally meet with them online, not in person.
Yeah, that's okay. So if they've booked into your calendar and they say, I want to have a chat with you, you go, great, awesome. Before our catch up, I'd like to send them through the white paper and say, have a read of this. Mm-hmm. And because I just want, and then have a read of this. And then in the meeting is just before the meeting is you can send them the brochure and so when we catch up, I usually send it, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe before the meeting or something like that. And I'll say, are you in front of your computer? I just thought I just shot through the program brochure and how it works. Now, in your case, like you said, they could be, if they're public market and they're paying for themselves, this information, most of this will be on a website landing page anyway. So that's fine to walk them through that. However, by you sending it to them, it allows that document to travel. So, because they may be talking to their partner, their husband, the accountant, whatever, and they go, I want to do this program with Jessica. She sent me this through today. Can you tell me what you think? So, so allow your documents to travel. So
perfect. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Now I see the flow and the format and how it all fits in. And I think people love to kind of have the sales page is one thing, but then they've got this and it feels like I've just sent it to them. It's not just go to this page and look at all that stuff.
Yeah, you've taken the time to pull the document together. It shows all the problems and fears and challenges, and it's concise. A website is sometimes actually quite hard to scroll through. So this is a nice, concise document that can, just help get it over the line a bit more too. And it's easier for your customer to read through it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's, that just all clicked into place then. Thank you. So
all right. Excellent. Good work. Okay. Gary, what's been helpful for you today?
Just the clarity on all the individual parts of the brochure.
Okay.
And also the idea of using the brochure to close the sale, not open the conversation.
Yes.
And I've read a lot of Alan Weiss's work as well, and he always talks about getting conceptual agreement.
Yes.
So getting agreement on the thing before other people try to pull it apart.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very valuable document to do that.
Yeah, I agree. His stuff's really good. Great. Excellent. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Jane.
Kelly Tomney, what's been, what else have I got here? What does that say? Yeah, that's right. Kelly,
Yeah.
what's been helpful for you today?
All useful, and I'm just trying to do the public program plus the corporate program. So I'm jumping from one document to the other as we're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, really helpful. And I suppose what I'm seeing now is, yes, I've got my future proofing stuff, which is great, but there's actually the program protection first now. So I'm sort of refining this, refining it a lot, which is really, really helpful. And just seeing the structure of all of this is really, 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 really great. Thank you.
That's okay. My pleasure. My advice to you, even at the end of this, and this is at least for the recording as well, is when you have this printed and it's all done, is do a role play of a sales meeting with someone with your document, and it will just allow you to see if it flows. Your document should just equally flow the way the conversation flows. The document should keep up with the conversation. And so equally, that if you get nervous or stuck or you're not sure, is your document will drive you anyway. It's in the flow of the format of the conversation. So even if you're still kind of getting used to getting good at selling, is that if you get your document right, it will help you and it'll sort of carry you through the conversation a bit too. And that helps. I find that when you've got a good document, it really helps you to build your own confidence in those meetings. Okay, excellent. So if you're happy to load up in the Facebook group as well, I'd love to see your FAQs. I'd love to see your samples, so pop them up so I can just go through, see if I can find any opportunities in there for you. And then I will see you on Friday. And if you get a sec, if you don't have time, I understand. But if there's any opportunity that you had, I would love a testimonial if possible, to say if you're finding this helpful. If you have time, I'd love to be able to get more people on, because I don't know about you, I'm like, I think this is the best use of time that you could do right now with all this stuff that's going on. I mean, Stacey, you're a testament to it yesterday with the amount of people you've got on, and it's given you feedback of what people want with your webinar yesterday. So, and your agility to be able to start to get those insights and pull something together. Even with the person that I was with on the webcast with all the CEOs the other day, you know, he said, and he's been through a lot of, you know, downturns in businesses and problems, and he said, and I agree with him. There's a lot of people saying back off, give people space, don't annoy them. They're in a really stressful time. I'm like, no, this is the time you show up. This is the time that you help. And at the same time, don't be afraid to have options available for people to buy. There's people, as he said, if you solve a big enough problem for people, they will buy it. So if the problem is big enough that they need that help now, is just design. It means a pivot. It means you have to redesign something or recreate something. He said, just don't assume that people. He said, don't cut off people being able to buy. There's plenty of businesses who are booming at the moment, and it's possible that you could be one of them. So if you solve a big enough problem, you know, imagine that we're not like a hairdresser closing down and not earning customers. Imagine if you're Coles or Woolworths at the moment, and you know, what would you need? What do you need to do with your business to be Coles or Woolworths at the moment and have so much demand because people are really needing your help? What do you need to do that? And no, the answer is not sell toilet paper. So, so think in abundance, think creatively, listen to your customers, listen to what they're saying, and, you know, design if you have to. Now is the time, because the people who can create these things along the way, everybody else is going, oh, but I don't deliver that. I deliver presentation skills training. You're like, you used to, now you deliver this. So listen, keep listening to your customers and keep being resourceful with what you've got, and try things, launch things. And hey, worst case scenarios, they don't buy it. Well, guess what? No one's buying anything. You can go, well, no one's really buying a huge amount anyway, but you might as well make it available, if people, if that's what they're screaming out for. You got a lot of feedback, Stacey, so I'm really happy for you with that. So, you know, keep listening to your customers. All right, keep up the great work. I can't wait to see what you pop up, and I'll see you on Friday. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Jane.
Bye.